Today coming up, a quick tutorial about how to mix breaks, how to get the balance right, and also some tips and tricks. Hey guys, so welcome to the vlog, welcome to the studio. Today a full tutorial. The track you just heard is by AXSENS. As you might remember, I made a giveaway to mix him this entire song. He now wants to release it and there's some fine tweaks I still want to take care of. The break was already mixed in my 4 series mixing tutorial. I will link it down below. It contains how to compress, EQ, how to use reverb, how to get an overall balance and a little bit of mastering. And today I want to take care of the last bit that I didn't have the time to take care back then, and that was actually mixing the breaks. It's, I think, the easiest part because the breaks usually have less elements to just have a little rest in a song for the people on the dance floor to just calm down, gather energy, have a build up to the drop again, just to have that contrast between not that much going on and a whole lot going on. This way, of course, the drop with a lot going on is even sticking out more. Whenever I mix a break, I think of it as a separate song actually, because it's so different to the drop. The drop is full of energy, full of elements, full of bass and kick, and the breaks are usually empty, especially in the low end. There is usually not that much going on because you want to have that contrast again to the break. So I will probably, on most tracks here in the song, there are 80 of them, I will just cut it and make a separate track to have the break part on it, so you can manipulate it in a different way. So for example, if I have a guitar that goes throughout the song because it's the main theme and topic of the song, I need to EQ it differently, I need to set a different level and basically do the entire mixing differently for the break part, because there might be a different balance going on, especially when there is no kick actually. There's so much more space. You somehow have to fill it out. So yeah, first up, just going to the break. It should be here where it's marked, and then cutting all of those tracks in one go with the scissor tool. Same again here. Most of them are just empty here in the break. I can delete those to get a better overview also. So now we're just left with 17 tracks. That's already a lot easier to mix. Let me play you the part really quick as it is right now. So the lowest element right here in this break part is that wobble pad, so I would love to start with that. Yes. It has a cool, nice bass sound to it, so I want to keep that, but the very low end below 50 is a little too much. Maybe even going up to 61 Hertz. The pianos are a little too much in the background for the break. For the drop, they need to be in the background because there's so much else going on, a lot of synthesizers, and the piano's just there to carry on the harmonics, the chords and everything. But here in the break, I think it's nice to open them up, maybe make them wide and just have them a little bit more in the foreground of the mix. So again, here EQing the pianos, usually just a low cut. Adding a tiny bit in the high frequencies just to make it pop a little more. There's a second piano layer, same here, a low cut. I want to make both pianos wide, so I'm using the Waves S1 imager. Where is it? There. So it's going now a tiny bit into anti-phase, which you actually shouldn't do, but I think here it's alright just to separate it even more from the vocals. And I checked it here on my sound card in mono, and it still holds up. It doesn't sound as nice in mono as in stereo, but usually most people listen at stereo, so I would rather usually go for the decision to make it nicer in stereo than mono, if you have to decide between those two. Next up, the vocal section. It's already mixed within itself, so if I do anything to the vocals differently to the drop in the break, I will just put them in one bus and do those things to all of them at once, because like between them, the balance is already alright.
I keep waiting for a sign that you wake, drenched in the thought of me, and I've been praying for you to come save me from a memory.
I think they just need a tiny bit more volume compared to the drop part, just like 1 dB. It's not a whole lot, but just that tiny bit.
I keep waiting for a sign that you wake, drenched in.
For the ARP sounds, same thing, just cutting away the low frequencies, and I want to add a reverb bus number 7. It's a Valhalla vintage reverb again with 2 seconds in decay time, and I will try it with like a half open mix.
I keep waiting for a sign that you wake, drenched in the thought of.
And that's already one big difference. I think in the break part you can add a tiny bit more reverb, making everything more dreamy, especially here on this track that already sounds dreamy with the ARP, the vocals. So I think I will give the vocals a tiny bit more reverb, as well as the ARP sound, the wobble pad and everything that is on the lower frequencies I will keep as it is.
I keep waiting for a sign that you wake, drenched in the thought of me, and I've been praying for you to come save.
So for this track, that's already pretty much it for mixing the break part. What's really important are also the effects on the end of the break part. More than that in a bit. I still need to go through the entire track and check that everything is alright before sending it over to Callum and for him to being able to release it. So let me work on it really intense, get the mixing down and also the mastering down, and then continue with some tips and tricks for mixing breaks.
You are my ecstasy.
All done for today with the mixing of the song. Also a whole lot of business stuff that has to do with the new studio that is coming hopefully up really soon. More on that probably tomorrow, but here are some tips for the mixing of breaks. So first up, controlling your bass in the break is so important. There should be a bass. I usually, if I don't have an element that has a lot of bass, I just put underneath of the song a sine wave, a really low one, just to have the possibility to fade in bass whenever I need it. So maybe in the middle of a break, if it's really long, build up that bass tension, and at the very end fade it away again to have the contrast again to the drop. Going into the break and out of the break are crucial points. That has to sound smooth. Usually you can achieve that with effects like putting maybe a riser or a drop sound right there in the transition. You can also try and start automating the end of the part that is starting right before the break. You can have a reverb automation to just increase the reverb on maybe the claps or all of the drums, maybe on a pad sound, maybe open up the cutoff. Just make sure the listener knows, hey, this part is now rising, so it will fall again. Or maybe just cutting out the kick, the last 4 bars, getting that transition smooth into the break. In the break, keep it quiet, don't make it too hectic, build the break up again. The break in itself is a part that needs kind of different modes, and to the end you can add a little bit of drums, you can add effects, a drum roll, and then the split second before it drops again, the most important in electronic music by far. You have to nail that, get that right. Maybe a drum roll, maybe silence, maybe you can have a rising white noise, maybe a rising white noise and then fading down again, or maybe pitching it down. There are millions of ways to get this transition right. The timing is really, really important. So listen to that point a million times and make sure it just sounds right. If it's not sounding right, change it, move things around. Don't stick to the grid of your DAW that much. It's not that important. It's more thing about the feeling, and especially a feeling how it works on the dance floor. So if you're also DJ and you have the chance, play it out in a club. If there's a mistake in the break, if there's a mistake building up to the drop and in the drop, you will immediately hear it. People will stop dancing or look weird. Maybe be surprised. That could be an effect that you want to achieve in your song. But usually if you're just starting out, go for a standard. Let the things rise up towards the end of the break. Maybe take away the low frequencies to have an even harder hitting drop. And also consider sometimes if your drop doesn't really work, it might be because the break isn't working. If the break is too loud, I usually have my breaks 3-4 dB quieter than the drop. You can also do that at the very end when you're done with your production and the breaks are too loud, especially at the end. Don't make them too loud. People will lose their hearing in a club. You can just lower that entire break part and this way control it versus the drop. Last tip, make sure the track doesn't fall apart in the break. I have that very often that I get demos. I listen to the drop, it sounds amazing, cool sound design, mixing is good, and then I skip into the breaks and the entire track just loses all of the energy, all of the tension. You have to keep it up and still make it a valid song even in the break. Especially the vocals, if you have vocals, are important. They need to be nailed in the break. You can hear way more mistakes and you can't get away with cutting it. Also here in the track of Callum Eddings, there were some mistakes in the vocals and the breathing is maybe a little bit too loud. But I mean, for someone starting out releasing the first couple of tracks, that's totally fine. Just get it out there and just go from there and try to make each and every track a little bit better than the previous one. So with that said, that's it from today's video, today's vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to check out the full mixing of this entire song, of the drop part, it's linked down below. 4 parts, you can watch all of them and learn how it actually got mixed, reverb, compression, and all these kind of things. And we will see us tomorrow back again here in the studio.